Hey nerds, we are going to do a review and breakdown of Daredevil Born Again, Episode 4, starting now. Welcome back to the Nerd Social. I am Colin. So, Episode 4 is written by David Fiege and Jesse Wigutow, and it is directed by Jeffrey Nachmanoff. My spoiler-free thoughts on this episode is they did a good job of showing how the criminal justice system screws people over who are in poverty. There are also some echoes to The Sopranos, which you will see in this episode and also in previous episodes as well. The mayoral events gives a very good look on how politics really works in a city like New York, but also in small towns across the United States and big states as well. There's also a pivotal moment between Fisk and one of his advisors that has been very memorable, and I would like to talk more about that one. Finally, there is a new character that emerges along with a familiar one. In terms of rating, I would give this episode a 9 out of 10, which is a movie marathon. I think that it has been able to give rich insights into the world of politics and the criminal justice system, along with the introduction of the new and old characters, really brings the level of the episode up for me. So those are my spoiler-free thoughts. If you would like to hear more about what I have to say regarding Daredevil Born Again and other content we put out there, please like, share, and subscribe for more. We really appreciate your support, and we are growing on all of our social media platforms. So without further ado, spoilers ahead for Daredevil Born Again, Episode 4. We start off with the death from the previous episode, Hector Ayala, and we saw that he was not guilty. There was a big victory. Then he went out and put on his mask, and he evidently got shot, maybe by Punisher, but we don't really know yet. Maybe by someone else, but the person that shot him definitely had the Punisher insignia on him. So his niece Angela wants to see the body. She was very distressed, and it puts out there whether or not she will become the next White Tiger. In the comics, she is Angela Ayala, so we shall see how that transpires throughout this series. We then figure out that Muse shows up in the abandoned subway area where Hector Ayala / White Tiger was investigating. We only saw a glimpse of him at the beginning of this episode. We'll probably see more of him later on. Daniel, who is the mayor's advisor bro, goes to the club to try to relax with BB Ulrich, who has some special access with the mayor, as it was established in previous episodes. He was spilling some secrets about waste disposal that was pretty juicy for BB or not to give up. That's going to be a very big storyline throughout this particular episode. There's also an incident between a black man and two NYPD that arrest him for shoplifting. That becomes a bigger part of this episode here, and there's several scenes later on that is going to be very impactful as we move along. In this particular still image is the fact that Wilson Fisk and Vanessa Fisk are in therapy, trying to address the fact that Vanessa cheated on him while he was away. And there's definitely a lot of heated tension because of the fact that we do not know where Adam, the alleged other person that's in this love triangle, we don't know where he is. Vanessa revealed to the therapist, who's Heather, the person that Matt is actually having a budding relationship with. This brings another dynamic into this series here. Vanessa says that Fisk leaving her was a betrayal that led to the affair, and also the source of that was her father abandoning her while he gambled and was an alcoholic. Wilson also at this point confronted Adam, and we don't know at this time what has happened to Adam. I speculated when I watched this episode that he was probably dead, but we'll get to that later on. And also, Heather made two very good points. One was that if there's no forgiveness, then there's no healing. So if we can't learn how to forgive ourselves, then the healing cannot start, then the reconciliation and the trust cannot be built back. Additionally, the fact that Heather asked Vanessa to stay back and asked her if she was a victim of domestic violence. Vanessa vehemently denies the fact that she has been a victim of that. We have seen in previous seasons that he is not like that at all to her, even though he is very violent toward all of the criminals and all of his associates. And in the BB report, which has been a very constant throughout the first 3 episodes, there was an interview with a person who says Fisk is in over his head and that he personally loves vigilantes. These reports have been like a snippet of the pulse of the city, which I really like, a touch that the writers have put in here throughout these first 4 episodes. Matt looks for Leroy Bradford, who is the guy that we saw earlier that was arrested for shoplifting. It seemed as though it was a small crime. So Matt actually goes to the prisoner lockup to visit him, and Matt ends up bargaining with a woman who gives out advised sentences. I think that was a very good touch in this episode because it seems they have a good working relationship, not romantic in any way, but definitely personable relationship between the two. And so you can see that he's trying very hard to advocate for Leroy, but Leroy, because of his past convictions, is not able to have probation, which he was looking for. Matt also bumps into Officer Powell and they have a confrontation. It doesn't seem as though any love is lost between those two. And so there's definitely that dynamic that is going on with the criminal justice system, which is a very good addition to the show. Fisk, meanwhile, has his own issues as he proposes to speak on a development on the Red Hook port into existence. So he doesn't want any type of red tape. He just wants to bully his way into this development and make sure that things are getting done. However, his advisor said that shouldn't be done. There has to be committee meetings. There has to be proper procedures. So in that case, he wanted to go through all the proper channels so that he can get the proposal done for the people of New York City. But we can see that he probably has some self-serving purposes here, which the advisors don't really know about. We then get to a point where Leroy gets, we'll get to this part here, but Leroy gets screwed by the system. He says that it's very hard to apply for food stamps and SSI once you get off. It's very hard to get back on. And also the fact that they are willing to pay us 5 times more to lock me up than to feed me. So it really gives an indictment on the criminal justice system, but also how messed up things are. If people are going through that experience, it's not a very good thing for them to go back into society once they get into trouble. It's rigged in a lot of ways against people that are impoverished or poor or down in the dumps, and it doesn't incentivize people to get out from that once they do make a mistake to be a productive member of society. So it was a good mention that there's definitely things out there that work against them, and it's criminal in a lot of ways. As I mentioned, there are a couple of events that the mayor goes to where there's a chorus that's singing "We Built the City," which is the 80s song. Mayor does not feel very comfortable. Also, he went to another event that was a Latvian with more singing of "We Built the City" when he was already not in a good mood. There's an article where BB exposed the headline "Mayor Garbage Union Buster," which is not a very good thing to have in a very union-loving city like New York. So his advisor, Sheila, addresses the advisor, bro, Daniel's inexperience and also incompetence during that time. Fisk had a meeting with all of his senior advisors where he lashes out to try to find out who the leaker is. Daniel here, who is portrayed by Michael Gandolfini, who is James Gandolfini's son. Daniel holds himself accountable for it. He's very remorseful for his mistake here. Wilson Fisk actually forgives him. He said that loyalty and courage are not easily replicated, which speaks to another person that is in the White House right now that basically says the same thing. You can definitely see Fisk's ruthless side comes out toward Daniel, and Sheila right here, the other advisor, seems extremely shaken by it, and maybe it's a bad omen of things to come later on. The BB report then puts out another thing where Mayor Fisk is not seen, and that there's always a new scandal that happens during his rocky tenure. And all these, I wouldn't want to say that the BB report are very hit pieces. They're more like investigative journalism and also getting the word on the street as well as the finger on the pulse of what New Yorkers are thinking about politics and also about the way of life in the city. Matt finds a shell casing from the gun of where Hector Ayala was shot. There's a lot of twists and turns that he ends up investigating where Frank Castle is actually staying. Now, at this point, we saw from the previous episodes that a lot of cops are fanboys of the Punisher. In the comics, we know that Punisher does not really like that type of fandom and the cops basically worshiping and idolizing him. Matt was able to find out where Frank was hiding. Frank triggers Matt by saying Foggy's name, and Matt almost loses it. Frank also explains his motivation for his son and says the guilt is also eating away at Matt. So he can definitely draw from his personal experience regarding his son's death to look at how Matt is feeling at this point. Fisk said that he learned a lot from his father except forgiveness. And so we saw from the previous seasons of Daredevil, especially that episode of Wilson Fisk being a child and taking the abuse of his father and the motivation behind the white painting, that was really well done. Probably some of the best stuff I've ever seen in Marvel television. He learned a lot from his father except forgiveness. And we saw earlier about how it ties back to what Heather was saying earlier in the episode. And he's trying to practice forgiveness and to say to Vanessa, hey, I'm willing to do this. Vanessa says that people change. So it seems as though she's trying to distance herself from Wilson Fisk at this point. It's very similar to another woman that's in the White House right now. When Heather sleeps over, she starts worrying about Matt, and it seems as though their relationship is moving along very well. It hasn't really gotten romantic just yet, but they're spending a lot of time together, so we don't know how that is going to transpire as we move forward. Near the end of this episode, Fisk walked past the white painting that was referenced in previous seasons of Daredevil, and also there is a person that is in a prison while he's eating dinner, and he's just mercilessly leaving him there while he is probably hungry and not having water. He's in a very dire state. It may be Adam, but we're not sure at this point. Then toward the end, we see that Matt is trying to, for the sake of Hector and also for Angela, trying to investigate what's going on. So he put back on his Daredevil costume, and also what Frank had said to him regarding that he needs to really get out of his rut right now as Daredevil. This character, Muse, who takes the blood from his victims, we don't know what he does with his blood. He's like a vampire, sucking the blood out of his victims, and there's many of them that are on display. It seems as though he's a very sadistic individual, and that's how episode 4 ends. So that is my breakdown of Daredevil Born Again episode 4. Tell us what you think about this episode by commenting down below. Like, share, and subscribe for more content like this, and we will see you in the next video. All right, take care, everybody.